Welcome to Latina in America, your bilingual destination for all things Latina about our diverse culture, professions, and passion to travel. I am Rosie. Our special guests will share their career journeys and will take us to amazing places around the world. On some episodes, they will take you on those journeys in Spanish. Así es, en español. So come on and join me. Let's learn and travel. Today, we have the honor to spend time with our special guest, Deondra Montgomery, a first-generation Mexican-American neuroscience graduate, current medical student, and the creator of Afro-Latina Med on social media. She is sharing her journey of what it takes to become a medical doctor, una doctora. Deondra, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me on here.
I have been following your journey that you have started posting and sharing with us on social media. And it has been such a plan of action of the things that what it's like to study medicine. So tell us about your heritage, your family background, and tell us about your culture, the community that you grew up. Tell us all about it.
I was born and raised in Southern California. My mother immigrated from Mexico to Los Angeles when she was a teenager. And my father is a Black American from California. I was raised by my mom and my Mexican side of the family. And my mother started to bring me around my father's side of the family so I could really get in touch with that side of my background. I consider myself Afro-Latina or Black Latina. I alternate between the two. And because of my ethnic and racial background, being Black and Mexicana, I definitely grew up seeing the various factors that affect both of these communities and how they're very similar and very different at the same time. And I'm able to understand everything that the people in those communities go through. So that has impacted my career choices. And my ultimate goal is to become a doctor and positively impact the lives of others.
I have seen your socials where you do such a magnificent work documenting your journey since 2021. And there I have seen pictures of you from childhood, from the time that you were 6 years old to your post on September of 2022, donde dice, voy a ser doctora. I'm going to be a doctor. Cuando yo vi eso, when I saw that, yes. And then to the significant white coat ceremony in 2023, where you proudly wear your Mexican dress. Tell me about those moments, those experiences. How was your trajectory from grade school to that moment?
Growing up, I was very fascinated by the human nervous system because I have a family member who has a neurological condition. So that made me interested, like, why is this happening to them? And what is the mechanisms behind everything? So that drew my interest to neuroscience to begin with. And then I went to college. I joined student organizations that were geared towards the pre-health field because I don't think I knew I wanted to be a doctor just yet, but I had an interest in medicine at that point. And these orgs were oriented around Black and Latino students in the community. I got more exposure to different healthcare fields. And then I just started to see that becoming a physician is what I really wanted. So I decided to be pre-med, and I ended up taking quite a few gap years once I graduated. During those gap years, I worked in clinical research, traveled, did volunteer work in my community while still having it in the back of my mind that I wanted to be a doctor. I decided to apply to medical school in the summer of 2020. So it was during the pandemic. And ultimately, I was unsuccessful that cycle, so I didn't get accepted. I just remember feeling very down and demoralized because at that point, it was so many years of working towards this one goal, and I didn't get in. So I just internalized it and processed it on my own. And then a year later, I was, okay, Deondra, this is ultimately what you want to do. You're not 100% satisfied in your current career. You know you want more, so go and do what you need to do to get where you want to go. Then in September of 2021, that's when I applied to take some more upper division classes, because at that point, I'm an older applicant. My initial prerequisite classes to apply to medical school had expired, so I had to take more classes to show that I can handle the academics. I could handle the workload. I had to get A's on all those classes. That's when I started to become more active, and I created my Latino Med account, and I started sharing my story. I decided that if I'm going to create this account, I need to be transparent about everything. So that's when I started to put it out there that I'm reapplying, started detailing everything that I did. And I applied for medical school the second time, summer of 2022. I remember the exact date, September 9th, 2022 is when I got my first acceptance. I remember because I was at work and I got a missed call because I keep my phone on Do Not Disturb. So I was at work seeing a patient, and then I go back to my desk and I see that I had a missed call and like a voicemail. So I listened to the voicemail telling me that I got accepted. It was really early on in the cycle to get an acceptance. So I was just, what? I wasn't expecting to hear back another 2, 3, 4 months. So I listened to the voicemail, called it back.
Just to make sure.
Like, wait, I got this voicemail. Is this real? And they're like, yeah, you got accepted. So that I was over the moon. I called my mom. I called my abuelos. I texted my family group chat, letting them know. And it was the best timing also, because my birthday was the very next day. I was leaving that very same evening to Mexico because I was going to go on a solo birthday trip to Mexico City. It was a perfect birthday gift that I could get from the universe. It was perfect timing.
What an amazing timing, from a no to a yes. And when the yes came right before your trip.
My family was super happy. And I also texted my close friends about it. I went to Mexico that very same evening. And when I was out there, I was, no, for sure, I'm going to get it. I also applied to other medical schools. No matter what happens, I have one acceptance, so I know I'm going to be in medical school a year from now. I know I want to wear something special. My Mexican culture has been so prominent in my entire life. So I went to one of the markets that they have out in Mexico City and bought a Mexican style dress that I really liked. And I was like, this is going to be my white coat ceremony dress. I am going to wear this dress. So I bought it and I saved it. And then a year later, in August of 2023, that's when I wore my dress and I walked across the stage, proudly representing my Mexican heritage. And it was a very emotional moment, a very emotional day, especially because I ended up coming to a school out of state in Michigan. And my whole family, they all live in Southern California. And due to their social economic status, they couldn't afford to fly out, come visit me. So only my mom was able to fly out, and she brought a good friend. So I only had 2 people that I knew there for this very important day in my life. It was very emotional for many reasons. Ultimately, super, super glad with how my journey has played out. Even though I remember just feeling so down and demoralized not getting in the first time, I had so many experiences from the time I first applied to when I applied the second time that have really enriched my life, that had provided me with so many good memories and also good lessons, and I think made me a better person. From that experience, I really learned that rejection is really just redirection.
Exactly. And that is so important. And I love something that you mentioned during their journey, that it says, mi abuelito me dijo, lo bueno es que estás más cerca de cuando empezaste, ¿verdad?
Yeah.
The good thing is that you are closer than when you started. And that is a perspective that is so valuable because, like you said, we get disappointed. We are humans. Of course, we're going to be disappointed. But the point is, what am I going to do from here? And it was so good to know that you decided to take that experience and apply it to the new one. Can you take us through the process of applying to medical school, beginning with all the tests and the personal statements and those stages to submitting an application?
It's a pretty lengthy process, and due to the costs involved, the time involved, the energy involved. It's definitely a good thing to be sure that this is what you want. So first is having the prerequisites. Prerequisites are classes that are needed to even apply. You want to have a good grades on those. The higher grade you could get, obviously the better. Then there's what's called the MCAT, which is a big exam that everyone who applies has to take. So that one I actually ended up taking 2 times because I wasn't completely satisfied with my first score. But I was just like, I know I could do better. So I took it again and I got a score closer to what I wanted. And there are the letters of rec. Those could be from doctors, professors, supervisors, basically anyone that could speak on your behalf and on your work ethic and say this is how he or she works. They would be a great candidate at your medical school. Typically, schools ask for 3 of those. So to apply, you also need to show that you have clinical experience, clinical exposure, showing that you've been in that environment where doctors work and you've seen what they do. A lot of students do medical assistant jobs. I did clinical research. I also was involved with some organizations where I got to work directly with patients, providing them information on blood pressure or cholesterol or vaccines. Another good thing to have is shadowing. So that's when you go and follow a doctor around, see what it is that they do on their day-to-day. I did that for a few years as well.
And that's why I appreciate so much what you do on socials, because it shows you the shadowing, what is really a day like that. And that is something that you have to have the stamina to go through it. So thank you so much for sharing, because it's very enlightening and it's important to know.
And then one of the major things that is necessary to apply to medical school is a personal statement. So the personal statement is where you're writing your why medicine, or more specifically, why do you want to be a doctor? So you only have a limited amount to explain it. I know when I was writing mine, I went through many revisions. When I first sat down to write it, I just wrote, and then I started to trim it down. And went through a lot of revisions. I asked friends that were close to me. Then I asked the doctors that I worked for. I asked also some people that I knew had a strong writing background. I basically asked anyone who was willing to read my personal statement and give me feedback. So I put a lot of time and work into my personal statement until finally I got to something that it said what I wanted to say. It showed whatever emotion I wanted to show, and it was concise. That's a major part of your application, because once you submit your application and you're going through interviews, you also have to be able to verbalize, why do you want to be a doctor? Your personal statement definitely guides you during your interviews, because it's like the basis of what you're going to say.
Exactly. And in the process of applying and going to this interview, what was the cost of each application, and about how many schools usually students apply to? Because that is another important factor, the economics of applying to all these colleges. So at the time that you did it, just a few years ago, how was that for you?
It was different the both times I applied. The first time I applied, I was earning below a certain amount, so that qualified me to get assistant to apply to medical school. And it paid for, I think, 20 of my applications. It gave me a discount on the MCAT, I believe. The second time I applied, I had a lot of things that I did change. And one of those things was that I got a new job that came with more responsibilities and higher pay. So because of what I was earning, I didn't qualify for that assistance anymore. It was all out of pocket. I don't remember the exact cost, but I could tell you it was a lot, because I applied for about 30 medical schools, and each of them you have to pay for the application. Once you submit your application to school the first time, they go through a screening process. And if they like what they saw, they send you what's called a secondary application. And that also comes with another cost. So some schools, there was no cost to the secondary application, but for some schools, I had to pay like $120. There was a big range in that as well. So ultimately, I don't know the exact amount, but I know for sure it was probably around $2,000. So to apply to medical school, there can be financial burden on students.
Yes, a barrier for entry. And that's what I'm asking you this, because you did it so recently. That is good to know, because if the person doesn't have the resources, it can prepare them mentally. This is what I need to do, and these are the things that I need to get aligned before I even begin to apply the process, because not only is time consuming, but it's a big investment. And then you select the different schools that you want to apply to. And in your case, what type of schools you were attracted to, that if they call you, you know that you will be excited to attend?
When I was making my list of what schools I wanted to go to, the main thing I was looking at was their mission statement. What is it that the school values? So ultimately, I only applied to schools that had in their mission statement that they wanted to work with underserved communities, or one of their passions was also like diversity in medicine. Those were the only schools I ended up applying to, because that's something that's super important to me. So I want to be in an institution that supports and shares my values.
Yes, absolutely. And once you are accepted, what is the process of attending a school?
Everyone, if they have more than one acceptance, has to choose just one. And then they have to tell that one school that they want to go to, I'm accepting your offer and I'm declining all the other offers.
I see. And in your case, it was out of state, talking about from Pacific time to Eastern. Every time you need to call somebody, is keep it into attention. Oh, what time it is? Because I know that happens to me.
I do a lot of FaceTime chats with my friends back home.
Yes.
And every time we're trying to coordinate, I always include EST,
exactly,
PT, specify what time zone we're talking about.
Yes. And talking about that, your social life and your professional life are part of being a medical student. I know you have leadership roles in so many organizations. Tell us about the benefit for the participants.
And organizations that I'm a part of is called the Latino Medical Student Association. And I have a role on the regional board as the public relations co-chair. Since undergrad, I would go to their conferences. And it's an organization that's tailored around helping the Latino students, supporting them, empowering them, and providing them resources to be successful in medical school. This organization also focuses on empowering and supporting the Latino community, not just like the medical students, but also the community, and do what we can to show that we're there and trying to uplift them. I'm very happy to be part of this organization, especially in this capacity, because I'll work with medical students from different regions in the Midwest, and all of us put our collective efforts together to continue the mission of this organization, which we're all passionate about. Helping the Latino community is just something that means a lot to us. So it's a very good feeling to be surrounded with such amazing students.
And then there is another organization that I was reading, that is the Student National Medical Association, or the SNMA. Tell us about that one as well.
Yeah, I've been involved with it since I was a pre-medical student. I would also go to their conferences. And on this one, I'm part of their National External Affairs Committee as a vice co-chair. And this committee handles all the promotions, the marketing, the podcast, the social media accounts. That organization, its mission is to also empower and uplift the students that are underrepresented in medicine, students that just have less numbers in the medical field. SNMA is one of the first organizations that allowed Black medical students to join, and it's open to any student. Both of these organizations align very well with my goals and my values.
Yes, the things that align so well with what we want to do. What type of support systems or resources have been more beneficial to you through this journey? And based on that also, what type of additional support do you think will help future students from similar background?
I think one of the main things that's very important, and I know not everyone is able to have this, but my family was just very supportive from the get-go on my decision to go on this path. And even when I didn't get in the first time, they were just very, very supportive, as well as the people that I intentionally chose to surround myself with. The friends, the colleagues, the organizations that I chose, they were all entities or people that really supported me and supported people from my background as well. One of the main things I would say is making sure that the people that you have in your circle are supportive, because we're always going to come across people who aren't really so invested in our journey or really don't really care, just don't show that support. And in those moments, it's okay to walk away from that because that's not what you need.
And now we are going to pivot to that fusion of travel and medicine. How the travel that you have done has influenced the decision to become a doctor and into seeing the future, your participation with different communities or different countries or different type of environment than your own.
Travel is very big and very important for me. It's actually something I wrote about in my medical school application, because in our application, we have different categories that we could write about, and I chose to write about travel. So I've traveled to a lot of places. I've been to Europe, Africa, South America, Central America, Mexico, of course. And in all of these, one of the things that I really got in from all of my travels is that as human beings, we all have shared experiences. We all experience sadness. We all experience happiness. We all want that sense of community. And it's something that's opened my eyes to a lot of things and shifted my mindset when I interact with other people. I think especially my travels to certain countries, like the Latin American countries, when I've been to some of the small pueblos in Guatemala or Mexico, and I've seen the disparities and the lack of access to medical care, that's also definitely fueled my desire to go into medicine and try to help these communities, both here locally, but also globally.
Yes, and to make a difference, and in making a difference, what advice would you give to Latinas considering a career in medicine? What is your advice since you are going through the process right now? What do you will tell them?
Don't let others' perceptions of you impact how you perceive yourself. Sometimes people don't believe you'll be able to achieve your goal to be a doctor simply because of your background. Don't pay attention to the noise. If it's something that you want to do, go for it, no matter what other people say, because there's always going to be people who don't necessarily believe in you. But as long as you believe in yourself and you make sure you surround yourself with people who believe in you, you'll be able to achieve things that you didn't think you could.
What a beautiful way to conclude this episode, Deondra. It has been an honor, and I am delighted that you have been able to share so that others can learn from you and that can connect with you. And talking about connecting with you, where can they reach you? What is the best way to get in touch with you?
I have an Instagram, TikTok, and a Twitter. My handle for everything is the same. It's Afro Latina Med, but Instagram is the best way.
Muchas gracias, Deondra. Thank you so much for investing your time with us. Thank you so much for giving us the gift of your knowledge, for giving us this blueprint of action. You are a testament to the power of resilience, determination, and community support. We wish you an amazing amount of success and continue pa'lante porque te necesitamos. We need you. So muchas gracias, Deondra. Gracias de corazón.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thanks for finding and subscribing to Latina in America so you don't miss a thing. And if you like this episode, give us a 5-star review so we can be put on front of more listeners. For details and show notes and how you can connect with and support our guests, please go to latinainamericapodcast.com. Email us at latinainamericapodcast@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram at Latina in America. Links can be found on the website. This has been Rosie, a Latina in America.